Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, regarding the virtual private network, this is a new video using two Windows servers. One is Windows 2016 and 2008. So here, based on this topology, we need one server here. So let me use 2016 here to configure the domain. So go to the virtual box, go to the 2016, kindly right click, take a snapshot. Okay, take a snapshot, because in case you make some mistake, you want to get back to the previous state. Then, for example, now the snapshot I have taken 3. I want to go back to the snapshot to old settings. Right click, restore. So now from the current settings, I can go back to the snapshot 2 settings, restore. Similarly, I can go back to the snapshot 1 settings. Suppose you don't want any snapshot, okay, like you want to remove, you can also remove the snapshot. So now let me tell you that I have created one snapshot. In case if I want to go back to the previous state, I can go back. Okay, then let me configure the network in the internal mode and start the 2016 server. So to configure the domain, I'm going to use Windows 2016. So I have logged into the Windows 2016 server. First step, we have to configure the IP address. So ncp a.cpl. Okay, you can go to the network settings. So go to the properties, TCP/IP4 properties, and configure the static IP according to the IP address given. Okay, so 192.168.1.10, 192. Subnet mask automatically it will take. Then you check here for this system domain. This is going to be the default gateway. 192.168.1.1 is the default gateway. So 192.168.1.1 is the gateway. Then we are going to configure the domain in this system. So we need a DNS server. The IP address of the same system is going to be the DNS IP also. So 192.168.1.10. Okay, same. This system, the DNS is going to run in the same system. So I'm giving the same IP address. Let me check once again all the IP address, everything. Yes, perfect. Then just go to the control panel and check whether the firewall is off. The scope of our this lab work is not about the firewall. Okay, so I am not going to create the rules and waste my time. So after configuring the IP address, you can like disable, then you can enable, okay, to reset everything. Okay, and then after that after that we are going to add that domain, add roles, next, next, next. Okay, you can see the topology. We want a domain sur.com. So we are going to configure the domain. Okay, so now we are going to configure the domain. So Active Directory, domain services, add features. You are not supposed to use the DC promo if you are going to configure the domain services in the 2012 or 2016. Okay, then next, next, install. It will take some time. Until then, let me pause the video. So now the installation, adding the roles part is over, but it is not completely over actually. It's partially completed. After this, when you click here, you can see here configuration required for Active Directory domain services. You can see. Okay, some students they make this mistake. Okay, so after adding the roles, they simply think that the domain has been configured. No, after that you should go here and then you have to read. You know, there might be many configurations pending. So what configuration we want? Active Directory domain services. So click that. So when you click, you will get the window like this. Add a domain controller to an existing domain. Add a new domain. Add a new forest. Okay, so please understand, we need a forest. So the domain exists inside a forest. Okay. Add a new forest. You have to select. If your domain is going to be the first domain, then you should select this. Add a new forest. So what is the domain name? For example, in our case, sur.com. Okay, this is going to be the root domain name. Next. Okay, now select the functional level of the new forest and root domain. Okay, here type the directory services to, in case you want to do some recovery, in that situation you need a password. So I put p at ssw0rd, the default complex password. P at ssw0rd. Okay, and don't disturb any of these things. Okay, so it is asking us to specify. Yeah, we need a DNS. A delegation for the DNS server cannot be created because of the authority to prevent zone cannot be found. Okay, so you just click next. This you can leave blank, no problem. Or just click here. Yeah, it will come. Sur.com. So the sur is the NetBuyer's domain name. Just click inside the box. Automatically this name would come. You need not type anything. Next. So this is the location where the entire information about the Active Directory is stored. So we need not do anything here. Next. So click install. Now you can see a message that the server has been configured successfully and it is restarting. you can see a message at the top. The server has been successfully promoted as a domain. Then automatically the system restarts. Now when it restarts, you can see it is going to be the domain server. So now we can log in into the domain server. You can see now the domain is popping up. So enter the administrator password. The password is same, but I think the keyboard not working. PXSW0RT password. So I have now successfully configured the domain. So this is the task number 1. So task number 1 is completed. Now we will go to the task number 2. So task number 1 we did using 2016, or in case you have 2012, you can do using 2012. So task number 2, we are going to use another Windows Server 2008 R2. So I want Windows 2008 R2. Again I tell you, okay, before you start your work, always right click, take snapshot. Okay, now I want for 2 IP addresses. You can see this diagram. 2 IP. One is 192.168.1.1. Another one is this. Okay, 2 IP address we need. So we need 2 interface card. So now second part we have moved to the 2008 server. So go to the network. Before you start, I took the snapshot, then I enable 2 adapter because we need 2 IP addresses, and for both you select internal. Okay, then the first one also internal and second one also internal. So we have 2 adapters enabled for the 2008 server. Once this is done, okay, we are free to go inside. So now we are in the second part. So please divide into 3 parts. Part number 1, 2016 server or 2012 server, you configure the domain. Understand? After that, go to the second part, choose the 2008 server, or even you could do in 2012 or 2016. But for simplicity, since these are the 2 available servers with us now, so I am showing through the 2008. So what we are going to do in 2008 is we are going to configure the VPN server. So this P, small p, capital at SSW0RD 10. Okay, let me find the password now. The password is P at SSW0RD. This is the password, P small letter. So we have logged in into the server. So here we have to configure the IP address. So the command is ncpa.ctl, then properties, then TCP IPv4, then check the diagram topology, and this is the subnet mask. There is no default gateway here. Of course, we have to give the IP address DNS 192. The IP address is the IP address of the. Sorry, something happened. Just go again, properties. The IP DNS is the IP address of the 2016 server. That is, IP is 192.168.1.10. Okay, that 2016, in which we configured the domain node. So that IP I am giving here as a DNS, because in that system only the DNS server we have configured by default automatically. So now one adapter we have configured, then go and check the topology. You need another external IP address. This is the external IP address. So right click, properties. So check what is IP 20.10, 10, and this is the subnet mask, and there's no default gateway. So again, give the DNS. Okay, 192.168.1.10. So once this is done, okay, what you have to do is you check whether you are able to ping the domain. Okay, so ping. Before that, better you remove the firewall. Yeah, firewall is off. So now I want to ping the sur.com. You can see it is pinging. That means the domain also configured successfully, plus there is a connectivity between the 2016 server in which the domain exists and this 2008 server in which we are going to configure the VPN server. So either you can use the domain name or the IP address. 1.10. So both way it is pinging. Okay, it's perfect. Now in the second phase, we have configured the IP address, everything very good. Now what we want to do is we have to join this computer as a member of the domain. So what we have to do is right click, my computer, properties, advanced system settings, and then computer name, then you click change, and then you click domain. So here you type sur.com. It is asking the credentials of the domain administrator. So AD, not capital A, administrator, then password. So enter the credentials of this domain. Okay, so this is the credential. So I have entered, and let's click OK. Now you can see a message that this welcome to the sur.com domain. So this system has been successfully connected to the domain. So now you have to restart, close and restart now. So now you are in the second server. The second server, what actually we are just configuring two IP addresses, and then we add this computer as a member of the domain, and then the third step is we are going to configure the VPN server. We are going to use this as a VPN server. This is the gateway server. Okay, you can see the topology. This is the gateway server. Okay, so the remote system would connect with this VPN server, not with the domain server. But the connection would be controlled by the domain controller. So that is why we are joining this computer as a member of the domain. Okay, so like which user can access the from the remote system, who is allowed to access the VPN, that would be decided by the VPN server domain. Now you can see the password of the domain. Okay, so the you know the domain. Okay, so this credentials you have to give. So here we have to make a small correction. So what you do is click switch user, then other user, then what you have to do is administrator at soor.com. Then you have to put p at s p at sswrd. So the now we are using the credentials of the domain, not the credentials of this local computer. Okay. So this is the credentials. So now we have entered the Windows 2008 R2 with the credentials of the domain administrator. Now we have to configure the VPN server. So go to the server manager. So after going to the server manager, go to roles. Add roles. Next. So Active Directory here, network policy and access service. So network policy and access service. Next, then you select this network policy server, routing and remote access service, and next, then install. So you wait for some time now. So now this is end over. So you close this server manager. Also close this. After that, then go to administrative tools. And you can see routing and remote access. Select that. Right click, configure and enable routing and remote access. Next, so you have many options. Okay, so select the first one, dial up or VPN. Select the VPN. Okay, you have two interfaces. So which interface has to be used for the VPN? Okay, you can see the topology. So we have to use the external IP address, this one. This is the IP to which the remote system would connect. So we have to select this IP 20. Then enable security on the selected interface by setting up static packet filters, okay, we don't need this. We don't need this. Like firewall functionality, we don't need this. Okay, as of now. So if we select this public IP interface and we uncheck this, then do you, so now the point is, when the remote system connect to the VPN server, it would get the IP address from the private network. Okay, so it would be one of the system in the private network. So it is asking, okay, do you, how to give the IP address when the remote system connect to the VPN server? So you can select from a specified range of address. Okay, so you can click new. So you see this, the network address is 192.168.1.1. Understand? So 1.1 means 1 dot, so the network is like this, 192.168.1.0 is the network. So now in this network some IP should be given, so I can give 192.168.1.100 until 192.168.1.110. So I give 10 IP address. Suppose in the exam, okay, in the exam, the network is like this, 196.168, 5.0. This is the network. Then what you have to do, 192.168, 5.100 until 192.168, 5.110. Like that, you have to assign the IP address. So now this is the network address. Okay, so we are going to allocate the IP like this. Okay, so here in this network, the domain IP is 192.168.1.10. Okay, and the gateway 192.168.1.1. You can see here. So 198, 168, 1.10, 198, 168, 1.1. Clear? So in this network, we are giving some systems for remote VPN connection, 10 IP addresses. Okay. So now, okay, so I am configuring 192. Hundred 192. So you give like this. Okay, so sorry, 100 to 109, 10 IP address, 109. Okay, yeah, it's up to you. You even 110, no problem. Understand? Click. If you want edit, you can edit, delete. So next. Do you want to set up the server to work with a radius server? So you would have studied in many course radius server for authentication. Okay, so if someone is connecting from the remote location and you want improve the security, then you can put one more server as a radius server. But now the scope of our lab work is just VPN, so we don't want the radius. Okay, no use routing and remote access to authenticate connection request. Yes, set up the server to work with the radius. So we go for no here and finish and click OK. Click OK. It will take some time. So finish. So now the VPN server has been configured successfully. Okay, now so in your lab work, the part 1 is finished, part 2 is finished, and very simple one, third part, that is we need some client machine to connect with the VPN server. So we are going to select, of course, very thin client. So XP we are going to select. So let me take a snapshot. In case any problem, we can go back to the previous state. Okay, I taken the snapshot, then I selected the IP address. It is in NAT mode. Now we want as internal mode. One IP is enough. Okay, click. Then you start the XP. But when you are doing this lab work, ensure that the domain server 2016 or 2012 is still running and 2008 is still running, because sometimes they might shut down, and when you try to connect to the VPN server, you might not be uh, connecting. So to overcome, you always check they are running. Okay, so now we are in the third phase. So now you know what you have to do in the third phase. You configure the IP first. Okay, ncpa.cpl. Okay, so configure this ncpa.cpl. So now we went to that properties, assign the IP address. So what is the IP address of this system? See the topology, 20.10. See, this is, oh, there is a mistake here. So this is 20 dot, it should be 1, and they cannot be the same IP address. So this should be one IP address. Let us say this is uh, 20.1 and this is 10. Okay, so please make the necessary corrections. Let me see. Okay, so this is 20.0.0.1 and this is 10. Okay, so now we go this 20.0.0. I think already we configured the IP address, so as 10 here. Already we configured, so I don't want to make any changes. /8. So now let's change this IP address then. 20.0.0.20. Okay, we will make this as IP address for this system, because already we have configured the IP, so I don't want to disturb the settings. Okay, so 20, and subnet mask it would generate automatically, and the DNS of course 192.168.1.10. You know this. This is the DNS. Okay, so please, this IP you should give us the DNS here also. Clear? 192.168.1.10. Okay, so once you configure these stuffs, click OK, close, then open the command prompt. Why I am asking you to open the command prompt? Because many students they make this mistake. From here, you should check whether you are able to ping this interface. So if you are able to ping, okay, so that means there is a connectivity. So you should ping from here to here. Okay, so what you do, ping 20.0.0.10. You are pinging. Okay, you are able to ping. Perfect. Okay, then also check the firewall. Okay, off. It's good. So now we are in the position to create the VPN. So we have finished the task 1 domain, VPN server finished, remote system finished. Now there is a question. What is the question? Which user is allowed to access the remote? Let's say we have a user called Tom. There is a user called Jerry. You want to allow only Tom, but you don't want to allow Jerry. So you should create the user in the domain. Okay, so where is the domain? The domain is in the 2016 or 2012. So go to the domain. Okay, you know what is the credentials of the domain? This is the credentials of the domain. Okay, so log in into the domain. Okay, after logging into the domain, go to tools. Okay, here you can see Active Directory, users and computers. So enlarge this, go to the domain, users. So here you create a new, okay, user. Let's say Tom, or let me say VPN user. VPN user. Okay. VPN user. Create a VPN user and give the password. So I am going to give the complex password p@ssw0rd. Okay, then p@ssw0rd. So please uncheck this password never expire like this. Next, so we have created the VPN user here, or you can give any name, no problem. Right click, then properties. So for this user, maybe you have many users, but you don't want all the users to connect to the VPN. So you want only a specific user to connect to the VPN. So let's say go to the properties and just a minute. Remote desktop. No, no. Dial in. Yeah, dial in. So go to the dial in option. So let me say again, VPN user, right click, properties. Okay, then go to the dial in. So in the dial in, what you do? Allow access. Allow access. This is very important. Some students, what they do everything, but they don't do this stuff. So create the user in the domain. Don't go to the 2008 server. Okay, don't create the user here. I don't want the user. This is VPN server. Okay, but what we want the user to be created in the domain, because which user can join, which user cannot join the VPN has to be determined by the domain controller. So create the in the domain a user and right click properties and click the dial in and select allow access. So now everything set in. Okay, and what you can do is now so maybe like you create the user, you are worried whether this settings has been updated or not. So what you do, go to command prompt, gp update /force. So this command, what it does, it would update all the settings what you make in the local computer, I mean in the domain. So it is updated. Now you can go to XP. Okay, you want to create a new connection. So in the XP, what you do, again go to this run ncba.cpl. Okay, then what you want a new connection. Next, connect to the internet, connect to my workplace. Second one, next, dial up connection or VPN. We want VPN. Next, company name. It says here you can give some name like sur.com, something you can give. Next, then it is asking the IP address. Okay, so you see this is the IP address. This IP address it is asking. From here you have to connect to this IP address. Okay, so 20.0.0.10 you are giving. Next, finish. Okay, then what you do, here you give VPN user. Okay, then password, then go to properties. Okay, networking. Okay, so networking, I again go here, properties, networking. Here automatic you select BPTP VPN. BPTP VPN. See, IPsec also we can do. Okay, so this is, we can do IPsec instead of BPTP. But now let us learn the basics of VPN using BPTP, and then you can modify this into your IPsec VPN, which is highly secure. So select the BPTP VPN. Okay, then okay, so then I don't want the shimas here. So VPN user, then we add SSW0RD. Before that, you check the IP address. You can see the IP, you are getting only one IP address, 20.20. But you see now once it is connected, it is connected now, perfect. Now I run the same thing. Now you see this system got two IP addresses. See, it get another IP address in the range 192.168.1.101. You can see this network, this IP belongs to the private network. So this system is joined to the private network through the VPN server, and it is authenticated by the domains, and it got one IP address from the from the private network. So which IP address that we configured in the VPN server. So in that range, you can see it got we assigned 100 to 110. So it got the IP 101. And also please understand, if you run the Wireshark in this system, all the communication between this system and the private network is encrypted, so nobody can access the plain text. So for example, let me say I ping 20.0.0.10, and now you can see sorry, 20 ping sur.com. You can see it is, all the communications are encrypted now. You cannot see the plain text. Okay, you cannot see the plain text. So this is the beauty of the VPN, virtual private network. So students, so this is part 1, this is part 2. So part 1 we use the 2016 or 2012 server you can use, and part 2 we can go for 2008. For understanding purpose I am telling, this same thing you can do it in 2016 also, 2012 also, but for understanding purpose I am telling use different servers. And then client XP, so you need 3 machines. So in the 2008, the VPN server where we are configuring need 2 IP addresses. Okay, so with this I conclude this video part. lab session. Thank you very much.